So welcome to our attendees. We have 5 people here already. Welcome Caitlin, Nico, Sabrina, Sheila, Stephen, or Stefan. You can correct me in the chat if you'd like. Please go ahead. We're going to start shortly, but if you could put in the chat, our attendees, where you're calling in from, watching from, what drew you to this webinar. We're excited to have you and our guest tonight, and we'll be starting shortly. Likewise, if you are on Facebook, please, oh, did I check the button to,
I don't think you did because I'm not seeing
shoot,
it.
I accidentally put it in private mode. Hold on, edit post. I'm changing it right now to public technology.
Oh, something.
Right, Connie?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, now we're live to everyone. So anyways, okay, Steve-O is what you're normally known as. Cool. And yeah, anyone who wants to put in the chat where you're coming from, even if you want to put in how you identify, whether it be sexual orientation or ethnic race, etc., you're all welcome here. This is an inclusive space. We want everyone to feel comfortable, especially our panelist, Koni Bennett. Okay, Minneapolis, awesome. And Connie and Jody and I, now actually, Connie, are you in Pennsylvania right now or are you in New
I
York?
am. I'm in
Okay, yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but I know you had said back in your profile, your bio, you do some things in New York too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So real time was checking. Oh, we got Portland, Oregon,
Nice.
Middletown, New York.
Great.
Woohoo! Awesome. And yeah, if you guys want to put in the chat where you heard about this webinar and what you're hoping to, yeah, why are you here? Why are you here? What brought you here? Ontario, Canada. Awesome. Yay.
Wow.
I think you're the furthest away so far. Well, no, maybe not, because Portland, Oregon, that's pretty far from where we are.
And the person from Middletown, I grew up in Washingtonville, New York.
Ah,
Oh,
very cool.
Yeah.
So we'll start very shortly here. Feel free to, yeah, we've got more people coming in. And yeah, just welcome you all. I'm going to let 2 more minutes. We've got 2 more minutes. If you just, aw, you're here to support Connie. Yay!
oh, thank you. Who was that? I missed
That's
that.
Sabrina.
Hi,
Sabrina.
Sabrina. Thank
Oh,
you
because
so much.
you're on your phone, aren't you, Connie? So you probably can you not
Yeah.
see the chat or the participant list?
I am not seeing them. I'm still trying to get access from my computer. So if you see my
Okay.
eyes wandering, that's what's happening.
No, that's fine. If you do end up going in on your computer, you can certainly enter the room that way, and then we can change your co-host to that one. So whatever works
Okay.
for you. Yeah.
Okay.
So grateful that you're here, Sabrina. Thank you for that. Stevo, so just been catching a lot of talks on race recently, reading quite a bit on it too. Should know more, have been half African for a few decades. Okay. All right. Thank you for being here. Awesome. Yeah, we'll tell people more towards the end of the evening how you can be a panelist, or most of you, I believe, are now. If you came in through the registration through Zoom, then you're registered for whichever one you selected date-wise. If you came in through Eventbrite, we put you in and we put you in on all the dates. You don't have to attend all the dates, but we just didn't know what to do with it. So we're just like, you're in. You just may not have received emails for all of them because we wait about 2 weeks before the next one to open up that registration. So yeah, so great. So welcome, Paul. Welcome, any other folks who would like to say where they're watching from. We'll start in just 1 more minute. And if you're watching on Facebook, feel free to let us know that as well. Those of you who are listening on Podbean as a replay or on YouTube watching as a replay, we're also happy to receive your comments. Let us know where you're watching from and what attracted you to this webinar. And it's about to get real, everybody. All right, it's 6:35 p.m. Eastern time, and we are.
I'm actually able to log in through my computer.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go on in, and then what I'll do is I will shift you into that co-host, and then we can get started. You'll be Connie times 2.
Let's see. Uh-oh, I think I was almost there. Something went wrong. The server encountered an internal error and was able to process your request.
Oh,
Ooh, okay, maybe not.
okay. False
It's okay.
alarm.
It's okay.
It is okay. You look
Oh,
great.
thank you for attending the webinar.
Oh,
There we go.
Is that the panelist link that we sent you?
It should be. That's the one that I clicked.
Okay.
Let's see.
The other thing is, welcome, Tony. Welcome. Let us know where you're calling in from and what attracted you to come to this webinar. If there's any expectations or hopes, we're happy to receive your comments. The other thing, Connie, is are you using a Mac or a PC?
A Mac. Does
I
that
can
matter?
text you. I can if you text yourself the link. Well, or I could text you. I wonder if I can text you the link.
That's what I was trying to do earlier, and then just get the message on my app and just and just log in there. And that's where I was having the issue. So
It might be a Zoom thing too, if it's not
I
the updated.
I think it is a Zoom thing. If
Okay.
I'm not able to get in within the next 30 seconds, I can stay on my phone. I'm fine with that.
And we're fine with that. And what we can do is we can feed you the chats and the We'll just say it out
Perfect.
loud.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah, perfect.
transparent here.
There we
So,
go.
all right. So,
Yeah, I'm getting the same error message. So
okay.
let's just do as we are.
No worries. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody, whether you're here on the live stream inside the webinar as an attendee, or you're watching live on Facebook, or you're watching and listening to a replay. We're really grateful that you're here. My name is Misha Safran. We're going to do introductions shortly, but I'm going to pass the mic over to my partner, Jody Lewis, who has, who will start us off.
Welcome, everyone. So glad that Connie's here with us this evening, and for all of you that are attending, so glad you're here as well. There's just been, since the beginning of this country, there has been deaths and racism and oppression, and it just keeps happening. And recently, as people are aware, we've had in the last several weeks more deaths, more violence. And I wanted to take a moment before we started to read something I found today. It's by Renee, and I'm not sure how Renee pronounces the last name. It's Ater, and it's something she wrote that I just struck me as I was thinking about this evening and thinking about all the recent deaths at the hands of police officers that have happened recently. I'm angry. I'm anguished. I am heartbroken. I am hollowed out. I am sick and tired of police needlessly killing black and brown people. Some police still see black men as threats to brutalize, to contain, to remand. They have stereotyped our grandfathers, fathers, husbands, sons, and nephews as monsters subject to violence and death. They have killed our grandmothers, mothers, wives, daughters, and nieces. Every time I watch the video of George Floyd's death, my heart weeps. Who in their right mind kneels on another human's neck and ignores desperate pleas of "I can't breathe"? Where is the humanity of these white police officers? Policing should not be predicated on brutal force and a complete disdain for black life. White supremacy has no place in the criminal justice system, in government, in the White House, in the United States. Black lives matter every second, every minute, every hour, every day. With that, I would like to invite us to have a moment of silence for all the lives that have been lost at the hands of officers, at the hands of just the oppression, racism, slavery, etc.
Thank you, everyone. And as a reminder, we have learned to start our webinars also with this reminder that all land is Indigenous land here in the United States, especially. All land is Indigenous land. So Jody is going to share with you also the purpose of our webinar, why we started it, and why we're continuing it.
Yeah, so Misha came up with the idea and graciously invited me to co-host it with her. And it's really designed to engage in honest and authentic conversations about the long time injustice of racism in America. Um, an opportunity to discuss systemic racism in an effort to dismantle white supremacy from the inside out. And our goal and intent of the webinar is really to highlight the voices of the BIPOC community members, giving them a safe space to be heard about their own experiences, their own challenges, and their own hopes without the need to educate white people.
Yeah, and this is really key. Not sure how our attendees or those watching the webinar right now identify with regards to color, race, but this is not Connie's job today to educate anybody. It's Connie's space to share, to be who she is, to say or not say what her heart desires. And so we ask that if you that when she shares her feelings, I will not support people disagreeing with her feelings. They're her feelings, her experiences. And we're not going to have any kind of argument or controversy in the sharing of Connie's experiences. You are certainly welcome to share your experiences. If you would like to be a panelist and are a member of the BIPOC community, you are certainly able to send us emails. But this is Connie's space tonight, and that's what we like to have for each of our webinars. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce me and Connie.
Hi. So my name is Jody Lewis. I am an attorney. I actually work for a nonprofit organization. I'm the legal director there, and we provide services for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Obviously, there's a big interconnection and intersectionality between racism and violence against women, and how the legal system and criminal justice system treats members of the BIPOC community. This webinar is important to me, and this work and listening is important to me because I have to readily admit I am a white woman. I am educated, I have privilege, and I don't always acknowledge or recognize that privilege. And in that, I do an injustice to others. And as hard as it say, I am a racist. I have not spoken up when I should have and could have, and I could have used my privilege to help and prevent things that I have not. And that's something I have to live with and struggle with each day. But I'm here to hear and to learn from what I'm hearing.
Thank you for your honesty and transparency.
Yes, thank you.
I invite all of us to be as honest and transparent. It doesn't mean that we're bad people. It means that we have made tremendous mistakes and we are learning from them and we are growing. It doesn't mean we get to pat ourselves on the back and say, oh, good job for admitting this. It's just an ongoing growth process, right? So thank you for that introduction. My name is Misha Safran, and I'm a native to Washington, D.C., but raised in California and living in Pennsylvania with the love of my life. And I have been an educator for 30 plus years, trilingual in French, Spanish, and English. And I grew up in Berkeley, Oakland, California, and I've always had a very diverse group of friends without really thinking about it, and yet at the same time absolutely adoring and admiring my BIPOC community member friends, because there was always this cultural pizzazz and zest amongst us, and I absolutely loved it. And there have been times where I too have been racist and neglected to speak up, to say things out of fear, but yet cried inside because I'm an empath. And now I'm trying to cry outside and break my silence. It brings us both great delight to introduce Koni Bennett. Koni brings to the area over 10 years of experience in multicultural hair care and styling. Splitting her upbringing between New York City and northeastern Pennsylvania, she discovered her love for hair during the summer visits to the Scranton area throughout her preteen years. Her mother, trying her best to keep Koni and her sister's hair neat with low maintenance, would have their hair braided in New York City before they would come spend summers in northeastern Pennsylvania. Being known around town as the girl with the braids, the hairstyles she wore attracted enough positive attention that it encouraged her to learn to do them. practicing on her sisters and friends is where where her adoration for the skill grew. With no consistent hair salon catering to the area's growing diverse culture, Connie, yes, became the go-to stylist for city-like hairstyles minus the commute. That's nice. I like that. By the time her parents made the permanent move to the area, 15-year-old Connie had developed a dedicated clientele base. That's so awesome. She would have men and women, boys and girls, lined up in her mother's living room after high school hours waiting to get their hair braided. After attending Penn State University for accounting and working for a local credit union, Connie quickly discovered that her fulfillment came from making others feel and look beautiful. It was then she decided to return to her home city, New York, to pursue a professional beauty career. In 2011, Connie graduated from Empire Beauty School and obtained her cosmetology license. Since then, she has provided hair and makeup services for countless clients throughout the New York City and tri-state area. Starting off at a salon on Wall Street, she has spread her talents throughout the Hamptons and Montauk. Is that how you say it? Montauk?
Montauk.
Montauk, okay. Has shot over 100 commercials with several production companies, has worked by the side of Kanye West for hair and makeup direction on the Yeezy Season 3 catalog. Is that how you say it? Okay. Represents Tresemme and at their New York Fashion Week salon. And I don't know if some of you who registered might have seen that really gorgeous picture of Connie. And has taken her talents international to the Bahamas, St. Thomas, and St. Martin.
St. Martin.
Yeah. Today, Connie divides her time between vanity, V space, A space, N space, I space, T space, Y, freelance-based work in New York City, and motherhood as a new mom to a 2-year-old baby girl while happily based in northeastern Pennsylvania. And just share my screen real quick to make sure people who are watching and that you can see this incredible. So again, this is the webinar, and isn't that gorgeous, that picture? Oh my gosh, I love that. Absolutely love that. So that was a quick little show. So welcome, Connie.
Thank you. What an introduction. I feel like that's my bio from my website and I've never heard it read, but oh my gosh, it's a lot. I have to shorten some things and update some things and change some things because Mia is no longer 2, she's now 5.
Oh,
And
so you have more than one daughter then? Okay.
no. I have the one.
Oh, you
but
have
at the time,
one.
I have one, but at the time, I wrote that she was a little bit younger. So that's a bio that's a little bit outdated that I have to update and apparently shorten because wow.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think you're super important and all that. It felt really okay. I'm just going to say this right now. It was I loved it. It was unapologetic. And there's some real success here. And I was just listening to an Instagram by an acquaintance of mine. I don't know if you know of Sonia Renee Taylor.
I don't.
She's on Instagram, but she was just talking about this might be a really great segue into our topic tonight because she was posted on Instagram very angry about the recent uproar about Stacey Abrams buying a beautiful home and how Black women's abundance is apparently not acceptable. And people were giving her a hard time for buying herself a new car. So your prosperity, your abundance, your description, your education is really important. I just gave myself goosebumps. Anyways, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And so, yeah, maybe I shouldn't shorten it. Maybe I should leave it as it is, but update the things that are new and amazing in my life, like my daughter turning 5 recently and me just being 5 years into motherhood, which if you are a mother or like you have probably hundreds of children that you taught and kind of mothered in a way, it's not easy dealing with a different and ever evolving personality that you're raising and then your own. And I, have so many clients, like I said, countless people that I've touched and worked with. So constantly dealing with new personalities and so many things have changed. I've grown as a stylist. I've grown as a person. And I'm shocked at myself for being here as a panelist because usually when I'm invited to speak, as of late, more consistently as of late, as I've been invited to speak, it's been more about my work and what I do and my contribution of bringing something a little different to the Northeast Pennsylvania region that the area hasn't seen consistently before. So I always get to talk about beauty and fun things and pretty things and happy things. And not that this isn't something that I'm happy and proud to talk about, but it's just a little shows me in a more vulnerable way. And it's a way that I often don't present myself. So I'm apologizing in advance if I get a little emotional or seem, deeply passionate about something that I'm speaking about, because this topic in general is touchy for me. But I'm happy to step out of my comfort zone for something so important. And I feel like I could be more vocal, as some would consider me a community leader, but I just haven't had the words, So this, and sorry for getting choked up, but this is my attempt to say what needs to be said. So I hope that you all can hear me with an open mind, and I'll share my experience and be candid with you. And I hope that we all, walk away from this conversation just a little bit more informed and better people.
Connie, it's
Thank you.
yeah, I think I've cried every webinar, and I don't know that I've apologized for it. And I want to give you permission, if you need it or want it or will take it, to not apologize for the rest of the webinar. Like,
Well, thank you.
your feelings are valid. In fact, crying and sadness is just one aspect. Anger is another aspect. And I mean, as far as Jody and I are concerned, I think there's no apology needed for any of those, because there's been tremendous injustice and tremendous sadness and pain. So you're invited, as safe as you feel, to feel those without apologizing. And then if you just feel like you need to apologize, fine, apologize. But just, I want the viewers and us to acknowledge you and let you know that every feeling you're having about your experiences, about the experiences of other BIPOC members, is real.
Well, thank you for that. And I'll start by just the introduction alone. And, before we got officially started, Misha and Jody gave me a call a few minutes before we went live, just to, loosen the nerves and get a little bit more familiar with each other, and a quick rundown of some of the things that I wanted to address tonight. And Misha asked me how to pronounce my name. How do you pronounce the name Koni? And so, because it's spelled oddly, Koni, a lot of people either mispronounce it or they ask how to pronounce it. But it's just so funny that we're having this conversation about systemic racism. And I took that opportunity to tell Misha that it's so funny that you're asking me how to spell Koni, because Koni is actually, it's a name that I adopted. It's not my actual name. My given name is Shaquana. And it's a beautiful name that my parents gave me. And a neighborhood kid in Manhattan, where I was born, just couldn't quite get it right. She was maybe 2, 3, a toddler, and just couldn't get the full name Shaquana right. So she would make up little names or like try to piece together sounds. And she somehow came up with Connie. And my mother thought she was so cute and the name was so cute. And she would always ask my mom if my mom was with me or not, where's Connie? And it just became something that everyone called me. And my family, my friends, those who knew me growing up, they knew me as Connie. At school and at extracurriculars, they knew me as Shaquana. It wasn't until my family moved us to Pennsylvania, and my friends from school and extracurriculars would come to my house to get their hair braided. And this person that they knew as Shaquana in school was being called Connie. And everybody that knew me that came to the house, my sisters, my mom, my dad, they called me Connie. So friends who would come over or get to know me or get their hair done by me, it kind of made them feel like a part of the family to be able to call me that. And it's just a name that kind of just grew with me. And then I became, more like, I guess I realized more like in the real world after graduating school and working with different people that I hadn't known my whole life and hadn't been brought together by a classroom or an extracurricular, coworkers at a job, etc. They would always kind of like twist their head and say like, Shaquana, like, how do you pronounce that? What does that mean? Where does it come from? Or would say, oh, Shaniqua, would you, handle this by the end of the day? internally, I'm not a confrontational person, so I almost never corrected someone when they said my name wrong. But internally, I would just gripe with the fact that, is my name too weird? Is it too odd? Is it too ghetto? Is it too hard to say? And I just would, sometimes before introducing myself as Shaquana, I would say, hey, you can call me Koni. My name's Shaquana, but call me Koni. My friends and my family call me that. And I'm okay with you calling me that, just to not feel, uncomfortable. And to make others feel comfortable, really, because I love my name. But just hearing others mispronounce it, just, it does something to you. It makes you feel like, you don't belong. So the nickname Koni being given to me, at such a young age, it kind of like took on a life of its own. And I thought, as much as I love my own name that was given to me, like, this seems to be something that more people find easier to say or relate with. So I'm going to take it and run with it. I just hated how boring the spelling was of traditionally spelling Koni. So I was a huge Kardashian fan in high school, and they all spelled their names with K's. And I thought, well, it'll be fun to spell, my Facebook or MySpace or whatever name with a K, and then shorten it to be as short as possible, because apparently Shaquana with its 8 letters is hard to pronounce and it's hard to say. And if I shorten it to maybe 4 letters, no one will ever get it wrong. And it's just so funny that Misha still asked, and so many still ask, do I say Koni or do I say Koni? How do I say it? How do I not get it wrong? Or they just, assume that it's Koni and they call me that. And I just think to myself, like, I just can't get past this. Like, this is just something that, it's just so funny to me that I switched the name so that I wouldn't have these conversations, but I'm still having them. So it's just funny to me. But that brings me to my next topic. And if you guys see my eyes wandering, I kind of wrote things down to keep myself guided, because I have a tendency to ramble. So I'm not distracted if you see my eyes wander.
Connie, let me just say one thing to the people watching too, that one of the reasons that I asked Connie for how to pronounce her name is because we took a class on microaggressions. And that is one thing that is actually what you were saying about Shaquana and how people would say Shakina or whatever, that's a microaggression. Like you said, it made you feel like you didn't belong. And so it's really important while you're struggling with the same, the abbreviated part of your name. That is definitely your experience and your story. And there are people here that maybe don't really, as a teacher, it was very important to ask my students, I might not say this right. Please correct me. I want you to help me understand, because this is you. This is part of who you are, your culture. And so it was interesting that it tied into your experience in a different way. And because of the notion of microaggressions, I want to encourage everyone to please seek out who it is you're speaking with and ask them before you butcher their name. Because it is, as you could see the emotion in Shaquana's face and Connie's face, you can see the emotion that is attached to having that slaughtered, to having that butchered, to having that neglected or negated. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And all is so true. And thank you for asking, even though I, somewhere in my 15, 16, 17-year-old mind, thought it would be self-explanatory, but I'm still thankful that you asked, just to be sure you got it right. Going from that, there would be times when I would notice that if I applied for a job and used my full name, Shaquana Bennett, there would be less callbacks. I would find myself calling different employers asking, hey, did you receive my resume? I applied online. This is when things were shifting to a more digital space. And I just, wasn't sure if my connection was good or if, something fell through. Did you get my resume? I never got the email confirmation. I never got a follow-up. It's been 2 weeks, it's been 3 weeks. It would be, kind of like short answers, or someone will get back to you. And then shortly after, I get the email that stated that, like, you didn't get the position, even though I thought, or I felt like, all my credentials verified. And then I checked the position if it was still available a week or a month later, and it would still be available, but they never give me a chance. And so I told myself, what if you started using Koni? Because if that's a name you're going to be using in the workplace anyways, then technically it's not a lie. So you could, put Koni on the resume, you get in the door and then you explain the whole rundown. And when you give your ID, obviously you can say, hey, this is me. This is what my credentials say, but this is what I'd like to be addressed as. And I found oftentimes I had very little explanation to give because I would always get the call back. People would talk to me on the phone and then I'd come in and I don't know how in translation things got confused, but finding out that I was a Black girl in person was kind of like, oh, you're Koni? Like, yeah, I'm Koni. I spoke to you 2 days ago about the job. So then it would be like, okay, well, there's less enthusiasm. I feel that energy. I feel like just like things have been taken down a notch. The enthusiasm of being excited to meet you speak via email and you feel like you kind of know someone and you're looking for the person that you spoke to via email and you're looking for that same enthusiasm, and then you lock eyes and you realize there's maybe a little bit of disappointment there. So that's hard, and me in my mind, I want to give everyone the benefit of doubt to say, that's not a racist gesture. That's nothing, personal against me. That's just, maybe something that person is going through. But the more it keeps happening, the more I have to be realistic with myself and say, no, this is systemic. This happens, and this doesn't only happen to me. Because when I'm talking to my friends and I'm talking to my family and I'm explaining to them how I feel, my white friends, my Black friends, my Latino friends, some are agreeing. Some are saying, I hate to admit, but that's how it is. I hate to admit, but the same thing happened to me. I have a brother who's racist, and we're all, we've grown up in a suburb or a predominantly white area, but they just don't understand. So I'm learning, this is what happens. It takes me from, there to the opportunities that are split, because sometimes an employer or an opportunity will present itself and then you'll get it. But once you're on the inside, you're not given the opportunities to thrive. I know myself, I know my potential, but I know that I can only go as far as a higher up will allow me to. So if we're in a meeting and I feel like I have a brilliant idea or a contribution to whatever topic that we're talking about, but I get undermined, or when I raise my pencil, I never really get the chance to speak because then, somebody else speaks and then we move on from the topic and no one circles back around to me. Or, I send an email that maybe I'm on an email chain and I share an idea or submit a feeling about something that we're all conversing about, and everyone seems to dance around my email but respond and answer to others. Again, microaggressions that oftentimes in a room I was the only Black girl. So just kind of trying to not use that as an excuse, because I feel like a lot of times people will say that the race card is pulled, that statement. And so I try my best to not be that person, or not be that person that is sensitive to everything and noticing everything and pointing everything out and reaching out to HR for everything. I'm trying to maybe just self-reflect and see how I can change, or how I can be better, or how I can make someone more comfortable. Maybe the next email chain, I shouldn't say anything. I should just do as I'm told. Or maybe I should keep my ideas to myself in my meetings because maybe my ideas don't resonate the same as others. And you just kind of, you lose sense of yourself and you lose sense of your placement, and you feel like you're not as important, and you feel like you are inferior, and you have a hard time just being yourself. You're constantly watering yourself down or trying to make yourself fit into a standard that no matter how much you dumb down or change your name, or be more quiet, or pull your hair in the ponytail and not wear it down, or change your makeup, or change your style of dress, or your pitch of voice, like nothing ever seems to suffice. So you find yourself just kind of feeling worthless in certain spaces, truly feeling like you don't belong. And not because of the class system, not because I'm lacking education, or I don't have the intellect, or I'm not social. It's none of those things. It's just because I'm a Black girl. So that's it. I mean, I have so many things on my mind that are all kind of like trying to rush out of my mouth, so it kind of makes me pause for a second to reflect on how I'm feeling, and it's hurtful. It hurts. But instead of rambling on about that, and I know this is a safe space to be heard, but I have so many things I want to touch on. So if you see my eyes wandering, I'm looking at my next point. Um, when I'm bringing to your attention about the issues with employers, it's honestly what led me to start my own business. You just get tired and you just truly feel defeated. And a lot of times in those predominantly white spaces, or spaces where I was the only or amongst very few other people of color, hair was always a topic of conversation. And anybody that has any texture to their hair knows that it's a job, being presentable every day. It's a job because it's overwhelming, truly. And for Black women especially, I think the conversation about hair in the workplace has been ever evolving over the last however many years, because it's just been unfair. And I decided to move on with something that I was passionate about and good at. And a place, being behind a person or behind a chair kind of gave me the liberty to take control of a situation that oftentimes when I was engaging with others, sometimes that I didn't know, I never felt like I had authority. So being able to have control over the way someone looks turns out kind of gave me a sense of pride. Attached to that was the good feeling that people have when they saw themselves after working with me. So I kind of took a liking to the fact that I felt like I had worth, and it was attached to somebody else feeling like they had worth. And that's why it just kind of beauty was something that just grew faster and farther than I had ever even planned. And I took the opportunity to move along to New York and do other things and kind of be in a more liberal place aside from Northeastern Pennsylvania, where I was exposed to so many different types of people who were totally open to working with me. And it gave me a platform to do what I love and learn so many things about the industry and the business, et cetera. And I noticed that even along the road of people being more socially accepting to my race and nationality and my name and my line of work, there still were subtle instances of discrimination that I faced. For instance, working with some of the biggest brands in the industry, and the brands that pivot with the way that society wants things. So, for instance, if you have influencers who are wearing their hair in braids and they're white girls, then everyone wants to wear braids. And you have the big brands that are pivoting to that because, well, influencers said it's cool, and now so people want to do it. And there have been certain instances when, in my professional career, I'm obviously a Black girl. There's obviously some know-how or some exposure to hair braiding. But instead of calling me for some of those jobs, they'd call other girls who were white girls or maybe had a bigger following or maybe had um, just presented what I feel like in a different way or in a more likable way to some of these brands that kind of took opportunities from me that opportunities that I could have thrived in. But I felt like because I was maybe not the face that they wanted to represent. They loved the braids, but they didn't love like the Blackness that came with them, or they wanted just someone that appeared to be a little bit different. So they would give that opportunity to someone else, even though I was more than capable of providing, the service and maybe even more knowledgeable. Or there would be other times when they would email me to ask me, what do you think we could do different or better about, what do you think about this look could have been better that another stylist had done? That was something that I could have been great at, like a braid service or something along those lines, and would ask me like, did we lay the edges right? Or which is just like little terms that like we use like in the Black community, we've always taken it fine attention to detail because our hair is so textured that when you get the front of your hair to lay a certain way and you get it to look a certain way, like it's a skill. So when when they would give the opportunities to other girls who maybe hadn't known those subtle nuances, that it's like a language or code that the Black girls speak, they would then email me and say, hey, so that post that we just shared, like, do you think that, that stylist laid the edges right? Or do you think they used the right product? And of course I would always, answer in all honesty, but I would think to myself, you could have gave that job to me and I would have executed perfectly, but you'd rather had give it to somebody that looked a little bit different and then behind the scenes get my approval. Like, well, the Black girls like this. Did we do it right? Will we get dragged on social media if we didn't do it right? So, it's hard, again, because here I am, I made the pivot. I'm doing something different that I actually love. I found comfort in this. And even still, I find those subtle nuances that kind of just remind you that you're almost enough, but not quite.
I just want to point out there's a comment in the chat. Someone wrote, there was a whole thing in the 80s about the cornrow being introduced by Bo Derek, which still sticks in a lot of people's craws. Is that what you meant? When it was a look that had been famously worn a few years earlier by Black soul singers. Right?
Yeah, the story of Bo Derek. I know that story. And her braids, she looks beautiful. It's so funny. I have a picture of her hanging in my shop and she looks beautiful, but it's true.
Yeah.
It wasn't new to it wasn't a style that was new to Black women. They had done it a million times in a million different ways, but it had only gotten recognition when Bo Derek had worn it on the beach. And there's something to be said about that also, because I think that a lot of times I think that we have certain special things about our community, or that are kind of like a language that we speak amongst each other. And I'm just saying communities in general. And when people outside of the communities don't know, the language, or they learn the language, sometimes they get excited and they want to try it and they want to share what they've learned because it is cool. And I love that about the blending of cultures. But there is a little phrase called culture appropriation. And that's when you love something about a culture, but you don't give credit to the origin of what you love. And that's when it becomes a little subtle racist nuance, when you share it without giving the attribute of where it came from. And with the conversation that I was having with you all earlier about having opportunities taken from me and given to someone else, doesn't necessarily, have to be all about me. But if you are going to, it's cultural appropriation when you give the credit to someone else who maybe doesn't have the background or the knowledge or the know-how, but then ask me behind the scenes to confirm that it was done to the liking of the Black girls.
And you charge
That
$1,000 for that, right?
I should have for a consultation fee. I should have. But the truth is no. And the truth is no, because what I do is not monetarily driven.
Right.
When I was 14 and 15 and acquiring the skill of hairstyling, I had no idea what money even meant. My parents provided everything for me. Money had no value to me at 14. I found something that I was good at and I loved to do it. And it connected me with my friends in my community and they paid me for it. And, that was the bonus, so money didn't mean anything to me. And I still don't equate what I do with money today. I just truly love what I do. And it just happens to provide for myself and my family. So I never charged for it. I just looked at it as I'm filling them in on information that maybe they didn't have. So maybe when the next opportunity presents itself, they'll give it to the girl who has the know-how. Or sometimes I feel like I'm making myself appear more valuable to them by giving them the information. So hopefully the next job they get, they will not undermine me, because they'll know not only does she have the skill, but she has the expertise on a verbal or written level, so she's more than the perfect candidate, That just brings me to, were you going to say something, Jody?
I was just gonna say, I think that's part of the whole problem, right? That everything's viewed through the white lens. So you had all the expertise, yet they had to put a white person as the salesperson, and we're still then wanting you to give, right?
Mhm.
That piece. And again, that's all what we face so much in this country and across the world, that just everything's viewed inappropriately through a white lens to the detriment of you and the BIPOC community.
Truly, truly. That brings me to other opportunities that friends of mine who are also in the beauty community, we started to connect a little bit more, because when we would meet for brunch, and we're all from different parts of the community. Some of my really good friends are beauty editors and writers for large publications, online magazines, print magazines. So they are also women of color who we've met at the passings of different jobs, and I've shared different tips with them and helped them close statement pieces or article pieces about, because it's been, the latest fad has been textured hair, women of color, etc. So, lots of pieces getting written on those, and I'm sharing we're collaborating on ideas, etc. And when we sit down and just connect with each other outside of work, we always end up coming back to work. And some of the things that we like, that we struggle with within our fields. And I was sitting with one of my really good friends who is a beauty editor. She's been for a few different publications, and she was she was letting me know throughout last year, when her publication got put on blast for underpaying some of their employees who do the same thing as other employees, but those employees who were underpaid happened to be people of color.
Mm.
And we would just, we would always talk about how overworked she was in like, previous meetups, and just how her work-life balance was like, she just couldn't find control. And she would bring this up to her bosses, and they would, and she would stress to them, I don't mind doing the work, but it's just not worth the compensation. It's overkill for the compensation. So how can we compromise? And they were never willing to compromise. And it wasn't until, I'm not sure if someone left the company and shared their salary, or how they found out that someone who's doing the same job as her was getting paid almost double. Um, and she was the Black girl on the team getting paid the less, but working the hardest. And it was, I'm sure if a quick Google search will bring you all to all the content, because it was such a big thing last summer. Um, but we talk about that, and we talk about how not only is it happening with me in a service industry being hands-on, it's happening in the professional workplace as well. And it's happening with people who are overqualified and have all the credentials and have all the professionalism and have done nothing wrong except exist as a person of color. And, this spills over into our communities, and opportunities being taken to us or being shredded so that we're sharing them with others, and not getting the opportunity to live or work to our fullest potential because things are being given away or being taken from us. Oftentimes, I'm pretty sure professional studies have shown that college graduates in the Black household are usually the first and only of today. And they have an immense amount of pressure to take their livelihood and disperse it among those at home, because a lot of times others in the family are not presented with opportunity. So when the one crawls out of that crab in the barrel mentality, they're then bringing all of what they're earning, and their life is spent taking care of others in the household. So it's systemic on many different levels, and it hurts many different generations when those little subtle nuances, on top of what you may already be dealing with, you have to work through, when you need your job, or when you want to blend in because you don't want to do anything wrong, because maybe your family or those around you are depending on you, or you are the shining star because you have made it out of this pool of your community that just doesn't do well because opportunities are not there and not presented, or it makes it difficult when you are then on top of all that dealing with the systemic racism inside the workplace.
Well, are the opportunities not presented, but they're taken away?
Taken away, not presented, taken away. And, I'm speaking it from a workplace perspective. I'm not even talking about getting through your neighborhood, your underprivileged neighborhood
Right.
safely, not getting stopped by the police
Right.
or
Just
not getting racially profiled, when you are the good kid, and you're making your way to work where you maybe are underpaid for doing the most work, and those microaggressions are handed to you, multiple times a day or a week, and you're already fighting so many things, just to exist in a day.
And the ability to get ahead, then you can't because you're getting paid less. I mean, I just Googled quickly because I know, the disparity in pay rate, particularly for women and black women, is huge. So what I pulled up is, if you just think about this for a minute, it takes the typical black woman 19 months to be paid what the average white man takes home in 12 months. I mean, you're looking, and it's black women were paid 63% of what non-Hispanic white men were paid in 2019. That's a huge difference when you're looking at trying to provide, to have the essentials in life when you have that much of a pay disparity and the only reason that exists is because you are a black woman.
Well, and what you were just saying, it
Yeah.
says right here, black women face a wider than average pay gap despite the fact that they participate in the workforce at much higher rates than most other women.
I'm sure that there's so many studies that have been shown to back it, but by this point, I honestly stopped doing the research because I'm the living research,
Living it, you're research.
and
Yeah,
it's just, it takes my
exactly.
anxiety through the roof to know that these studies are being shown, these things have been written and proved, yet we're still talking about them. They're still happening. We're still dealing. It's exhausting,
Mhm.
truly exhausting. Um, I mentioned earlier how, sometimes when you do get to the workplace where they forget how to pronounce your name, or they undermine your email on the chain, or your pencil raise about that topic, happens 3 times in a week,
Mhm.
they meaning people at the workplace. And I'm speaking particularly from a professional perspective.
Mhm.
Um, don't understand that, sometimes, on your way to work, you could have been racially profiled. There had been several jobs that I had gone to in the city. One in particular where, oh boy, I had, I had started the salon in Pennsylvania, and I still freelance in and out of the city quite a bit. And a few production companies that I freelance with will call me for jobs randomly as they arrive. And I made arrangements I had a very tight schedule this particular weekend. I had worked in the salon on a Thursday. The shoot that I had was a 16-hour day on a Friday. I had a wedding in Philadelphia Saturday morning. And I remember those 3 days I had worked like a dog. I had a schedule that was going to like put me to work. And I had very short periods of time in between to myself. Like really the commute, the drive in between was like the time I had to get a coffee, listen to my favorite podcast, and just kind of like unwind before I was like going to another job. So one particular morning I had stayed at a cousin's house in Harlem, and I had gotten up at 5 a.m. to make my way to Brooklyn to be on set for 6 a.m. And I had just bought a car from New Jersey, and it had temporary plates on it. And I'm coming across the Williamsburg Bridge 5 minutes from my job, and I get stopped by a cop on the Lower East Side. And he asked all the questions, run all the information. I explained the temporary plate, which is why he said he pulled me over, that I just bought the car from New Jersey. I technically don't have a plate yet. My license was a New York license, but I recently moved to Pennsylvania. So now I have a Pennsylvania license, even though I may be in your New York system, blah, blah, blah. So I give him the Pennsylvania license. He's running the information. He somehow, he ran the information, and I guess on the Pennsylvania system, everything cleared perfectly fine. But he asked me after like having my ID for about 20 minutes, I'm explaining, I'm in a rush. I'm on my way to work. I'm kind of the only one that does my job on the job. So I can't be late. So, whatever the issue is, can we, get the move on, because I'm getting anxious and I hate to call my employer and tell them that I'm being pulled over by the cops. And that's why I'm late for work. So I explained to him that, and he says, okay, I have to run just a few more things. Okay, so there's an issue with the insurance because the car is new and the insurance got swapped, et cetera. You have to call and make arrangements to let the DMV know that you changed the insurance. So he figures out the insurance is okay. But okay, I want to check one more thing. So constantly wanting to like find something. And so the Pennsylvania license had not been attached to the New York license, where there was an unpaid ticket on the New York license. And because there was an unpaid ticket, they suspended the New York license. And for that, they arrested me and handcuffed me and shackled me and took my photo and had me fully processed. Long story short is I missed that job because I spent my entire day in central bookings, and I was basically treated like I had done some of the worst crime in the world, you know? And even if the license in New York was suspended, I'm hold me fully accountable for that. But the way I was manhandled, the way I was like, aggressively yanked out of my car, the way I had handcuffs placed on me, I had shackles placed on my feet. I was, just kind of like handled so roughly and so aggressively. I was put in a holding cell. They had a rookie cop who was brand new on the job who kept apologizing to me because he felt like something was wrong. He couldn't obviously couldn't admit that, but he kept apologizing to me and just saying how sorry he was. I'm sorry, but I have to take your fingerprints. I'm sorry, but I have to have your mugshot. They told me you've never been in the system before, but we have to process this. So I'm sorry, we have to process this. I've never done this before. So, I'm like, I've never done this before, If this is a suspended license, why am I being treated this way? Long story short, I missed the job. The shifts changed because I'm literally there from 5:45 a.m. until about 8 p.m. So the shifts changed, and then another person comes in who's a woman of color, and she's asking, why is this girl in a holding cell? I'm dressed nice because I'm going to work, and she's kind of looking at me like, what did you do to be in here, And they give her the rundown, and by that time, my aunt and my cousin were there. And she kind of explains to them, and I'm a mess. She explains to them like, I won't talk to anyone. I'm totally upset. And but all I need to do to get this eradicated is go downtown and pay the ticket, and this all goes away. And my aunt couldn't believe that they put me through all of that to tell me after nearly 8, 9 hours that the ticket just needed to be paid. It was just a moving traffic citation that just needed to be paid. And it was maybe $100. And, I had been put through the system of New York as a criminal offense. And I had been manhandled and handcuffed and shackled, an experience that I would not wish on, anyone. But I felt like, is this because I'm a Black girl? Like, were you digging and looking for something because you just felt like I should have gone through this? If there was another way that you could have handled this, why didn't you? All the questions. And I'm fully accountable for not paying the ticket. There was a lot of movement involved, moving to different states. It went on, it flew under the radar, which is no excuse in the legal and criminal justice system. And I understand that, but did I have to be handled that way? It brings me to the George Floyd situation, because did he have to be handled that way? Could there have been an alternative conversation, or, even if he did actually commit a crime that permitted him to be held accountable for it, did it have to happen in that way? Did he have to lose his life like that? Did he mean anything to you? Was, what did you think when you saw a person like that? What did you think when you saw me? I
Look
mean,
at the
you
way
don't know what
look at the way they treated Second Lieutenant Navarro.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw those videos.
I didn't.
He's a second lieutenant, and he drove a mile rather than stopping right away because he wanted to get somewhere where it was light. And they
I
put the
did. Yeah. Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
that stuff
Yeah.
called? Pepper spray
Yeah.
in
The
his
pepper
eyes with his
spray.
hands up in the air.
Yeah. And
Why? Because he's
it
black.
to me, I'm thinking like, if there's something that I'm doing wrong, or if there's liable clause for you to be aggressive, you're trained to do as you see fit. But in certain, I was treated that day like I had done something like harmful. I was handled aggressively as if I was like, resisting arrest, or as if I had done something physical to someone. But, really there was a misunderstanding that could have easily been broken down, explained, and I would have absolutely been compliant because I have no problem being held accountable. But I was handled roughly, like, and aggressively. And that was traumatic for me, to the point now where if I'm driving, even though, like, I know everything's clear and I know everything's clean on my record, and I know I have no moving citations or anything like that. But when I see lights or when I see police, like, I instantly get anxious. When I have my daughter in the car and they mentioned, I had a car seat in the back of my car, and they mentioned, they were handling me, that this would have been a lot different if your daughter was here because you'd be in a lot more trouble. And I'm thinking, like, wow, am I going through this? So I eventually called my employer, and I'm telling my employer, like, this is what's happening. They're sick to their stomach. They can't believe, they understand very well what I'm up against. And they worked with me, and they obviously, like, apologized that it was happening, and told me to take care of myself, and that they would fill the slot and everything would be okay. But they checked on me afterward. But, just knowing that I had to experience that. My 5-year-old daughter asked me the other day, she's learning about good guys, bad guys, cops, what they do. My husband's with the New York City Fire Department, the difference between the fire department and the police department, et cetera. And she said, Mom, have you ever been to jail? And I'm like, I said, no, but what would make you ask that? And she's like, I don't know. I'm just wondering. But in my mind, I'm like, I've definitely been arrested and shackled and thrown into the back of a cop car and put into a holding cell. So one day I'm going to have to tell her the truth and tell her, well, yeah, that did happen, but it didn't happen fairly. It shouldn't have happened. These are conversations that we have to have with our children, maturing them at ages where, they shouldn't be having these conversations. It takes their innocence. And you never really, it starts with those nuances, like the names, but it ends up being a conversation about this because this is what it's grown to. It's hard to talk about it. Sometimes it's hard to be candid. It's a conversation that I don't want to have, but here we are, still talking about, the officer being pepper sprayed, and me being, handled aggressively for, a moving citation. Some people are dying from moving citations. And I was thinking of all the things that I wanted to say today, and some of the things I wanted to share today. And I mostly wanted people to know that, there are so many ways that we all can be better people. And this is not a conversation to make anybody who is not a Black or Indigenous person of color feel like they're inferior or feel like they're less than. But this is a conversation that is needed to be had because we have to acknowledge the hard parts about what's happening. And we have to be able to have conversations about them. And we have to be able to remember that um, even though you may have been, racism is definitely systematic here in America and honestly all over the world. And you have to unlearn a lot of what you did learn. And this may not be definitive for some people, but opening up today about this with all of you is definitive to me because it's something that I am not always comfortable with because I've always been that girl that has tried to dumb things down to be more socially accepted or try to fit in or not be the problem child, if you will, just because I'm the different one in the room. So feeling like I actually have a voice that people want to hear and using that platform to share my experiences, it's really, really hard for me because I just don't this is not a comfortable place that I'm in. I'm not confident enough to want to do this. So this is hard for me. And I wanted to have this conversation with all of you and share this with you because I want you to remember that what you might have learned not all the time is the way you should execute. You should try your best to learn others. You should try your best to see others as they are. You should try your best to understand. Not everything you will agree with. Some people may say, well, you should have paid that ticket. And then that cop wouldn't have had anything else to say to you. And then you would have moved on and he would have moved on. And that's right. That's actually very true. However, there's a way to deal with someone that hadn't paid a ticket. And it's not to handle them aggressively. There's a time when you do that. And I think that we have to be comfortable enough to have those conversations to say that we're both right and we're both wrong. And we can learn something from this. See that person as a person, and maybe, just maybe, that may not have happened the way that it happened. So see us as people, all people. And I hope that, being candid is something that you feel, me being candid is something that you feel. And I'm open to learning, and I'll read all the comments that you have following this conversation about maybe your opinions on how I can be a better person. And thank you for providing a safe space for me to do that. And I'm honestly just thankful.
Thank you, Connie. Yeah, there are some other comments, not about how you could be a better person, but someone mentioned earlier there's a phrase we hear a lot called driving while black, as though it's inherently a crime. Ooh, I just got teary on that one. And another person wrote, somebody that's watching on Facebook, wrote that women must work twice as hard as other women just to prove their value. African American women is what they wrote, AA. African American women must work twice as hard as other women just to prove their value. And we do it because we are grateful for opportunities and committed to providing for their families. Most must help their spouse because of systemic oppression or unfair treatment, which most often causes them to be unemployed, etc. And, it's, I'm a little bit, I'm going to pause for a minute. I think what you said about we're both wrong and we're both right is really important. There's so much around what's been going on in the last 4 years, and of course the last 400 years, where if I say someone's done something wrong, they think I'm saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying just because you did something wrong, I haven't done something wrong too. And a lot of people are very quick to be on the defensive, right? So when I'm not gonna remember the name, Calvin Bland was shot in the back 7 times because he reached back into his car. Yeah, he was wrong maybe for reaching back in his car or whatever he did, but he didn't deserve to be shot 7 times. There are other ways to approach. And that's why people are calling for police reform. And yet the term of defund the police scared people, and now there's this whole other counter reaction. But the idea is there needs to be reform. There needs to be love and support. There needs to be a better way of handling. I have a student who was an alumni who got shot because he was wielding a knife in front of a grocery store. He was high on drugs or something, and they shot him to death. They're both wrong. He was having an episode. They had a reaction. They were both wrong. But the ultimate result was that you did not deserve to be shackled and put into a holding cell for a violation ticket that hadn't been paid yet. It was wrong that he was shot on the moment. It is wrong that Lieutenant Navarro had to be treated the way he was for not pulling over sooner. It's wrong that Derek Chauvin put his knee on George Floyd for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. The list goes on and on and on. But we're not saying that these people who received this treatment were right. We're just saying there's a different way to treat people regardless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only, in the criminal justice system, but this goes, it just basically touches on all the other things that I've mentioned as well. There, the cultural appropriation, pronunciation of names, just behavior, lifestyle, personality, etc. There are ways to understand things you don't understand. my husband and I, we take leisure in traveling all over the world to learn different cultures and learn different languages and eat different foods and, just, truly just get in touch with the other people in the world who are some like us and some completely different than us. And it's just about wanting to respect and connect, with things that you don't understand. Um, Even if, you are intimidated, or even if, um, you know, what do I want to say? I want to say most common times, I guess I'll say that, even though most common times or research have shown that maybe a certain neighborhood is unsafe for a certain reason or et cetera, but there are ways to go about addressing people from different places. There are ways to go about, um, you know, it brings me to my thoughts are everywhere. They're so scattered because of all the things that you mentioned, but it brings me back to George Floyd and the trial that's happening right now, and how they were bringing up in the trial that his history was not the best and that he had endured drug abuse and, all of those things. And it just makes me, it makes me want to scream because I immediately want to remind them that a person who may be struggling with one thing or may have been exposed to one thing or maybe just truly doesn't know anything outside of what they know, doesn't mean that because they are different in that way you use an excessive force on them, or because you don't understand them you're fearful and that makes you use an excessive force, or and I'm saying excessive force, but what I really mean is treat them differently or treat them worse than, or remove that aspect of them being a person and objectify them and treat them like an object versus, a person. You would throw your shoe, you wouldn't throw a person, you know?
Mhm.
So there should be, certain ways that you handle certain things. And I say that not only, focusing on the criminal justice system, but oh man, my brain is everywhere about, thinking about how we can just be better people in general. I
Yeah.
think that it really starts with trying to get to learn and understand people in their cultures. My husband, who has worked on the field with the New York City Fire Department for maybe 17, 18 years at this point, he would watch how, they work very closely with NYPD, and he would watch how, you know, rookie cops new on the job from suburbs in Long Island would be put on the corners of the roughest streets in Brooklyn to police those people. And, you may not know Crazy Joe, who everybody knows is just a little loud and, maybe he's had, a rough life and he kind of looks like what he's been through, but he's a good person, and he might be a little loud and he might talk to himself on the street, but he'd hold the door for anybody, or he would, help any kid cross the street, or, but if you see him having a moment and he's just, that's just Crazy Joe, but you tackle him and arrest him or put your knee on his neck because you don't understand the community, because you don't understand who's before you, or because you're fearful because Crazy Joe might be 6'4", 325 pounds, and you are 5'9", 140 and fit, and you come from the suburb of Long Island where you don't see many Crazy Joes, and Crazy Joe's a threat to you. I think that like I mentioned us traveling earlier, and we travel to see different things and experience different people and learn different things, so that we are not oblivious to other cultures, so that when we see a person from the Middle East, we can pick up on an accent or communicate about a food or understand the red dot on the forehead or the wrap on the scarf and the wrap on the head and, Ramadan practices, etc. It's just that simple.
Mhm.
Because once you know a little bit more about someone and you actually view them as a person, you see a woman and you view her as someone's daughter, or you see a woman and you view her as someone's wife or someone's mother, um, or you see a son and you equate that young boy to a son, your son.
Mhm.
I think that we all have had people in our families and people that are close to us that have struggled and have had hard times and maybe have fell into the same path George Floyd has. But do they deserve to die if they make a mistake? And in that way, when you think of your daughter or niece or, sister, friend, on their way to a job for a traffic ticket, do you want them shackled and handcuffed and thrown into the back of a cop car and held into a holding cell? And you don't want your loved ones to go through that. You cringe thinking of that, even if that happening to you. I think that, we have to do a better job with just remembering that we're all important to someone. That sergeant who was stopped and pepper sprayed like that, that was a person who was important to people, people who didn't want to see him go through that. I think oftentimes we forget that we are somehow desensitized to the sensitivity of people of color. And I think that that's something that we all need to fix, change and fix immediately. We have young kids who, don't quite understand what's going on, but they already know they can't behave a certain way, or they have to walk a straight line, or they can't put their hoodie on, or they have to, stand up straight when you're, in the certain presence of other people, or don't wear your backpack today, take the grocery bag today, because you just don't, it's taking that innocence. And then, you desensitize children to sensitivity. So then they grow up and then they're a little bit, taken aback or reserved or cold. And then you're undoing all of the doing, it's spilling over into personal relationships. It's spilling over into self-worth, self-love. It's spilling over into friendships and how you relate with your neighbors. There was a situation that happened in Pennsylvania, a few towns over from where my salon is, two neighbors just going at it with each other. And one neighbor pulls out a gun, shoots the other neighbor. It's just like, did we forget that we live across the street from each other? Did we forget that, just as important as that neighbor is, to his family, we are just as important to ours. I think that we've lost that sense of placement for each other. And it's hard and it's hurtful to talk about, but I think that we all can take a lesson from the things that have happened around us, that are happening in our communities. We all can be more involved in speaking out when we see things that aren't right. I could have done a much better job, especially over the past year, given the events that have taken places, and in my role as a community leader. I could have done a better job with speaking more about the injustice of what was happening with the riots and the Black Lives Matter movement taking on full speed the way it did, and the death of George Floyd and how unfair that unraveled.
And Brianna
But
Taylor.
honestly,
Yeah. I mean,
I was numb.
yeah.
There were so many nights I didn't sleep. I was up on my phone on Twitter watching, people tweet as things were happening, and I was sick to my stomach, my anxiety racing. My husband is still on the road back and forth commuting. I'm nervous about people mistaking his, FDNY patch on his jacket for an NYPD patch and thinking he was a cop and thinking he was an enemy. There's so many things I wish I did differently. And there's so many ways I wish I had a better hold on my anxiety. And there's so many times I wish that trauma that Shaquana went through, when she was just trying to blend in and she felt like she couldn't, I wish that trauma didn't affect me throughout this last year and made me be quiet, because that's what it did. It made me feel like I didn't have a place to speak. And so I didn't. I was quiet about everything. I never said anything socially. I talked to my husband. I have the conversation with my clients at the salon. They know that Vanity is a safe space for them to say exactly how they feel. If they have to be quiet every other place in Northeastern Pennsylvania, they know when they're sitting with my partner and I that they can say exactly how they feel. And I use that opportunity to get things off my chest as well in my controlled environment. But I could have done a lot better just reminding people what was right. And I felt like I couldn't do that because the trauma that I've experienced up until now kept me quiet. So I'm forever indebted to the both of you for just wanting me to share my story, because no one lost their lives, that were close to me or dear to me, or, I was mishandled in that situation when I was stopped for the traffic violation. But I'm still here to tell my story, and I'm still here to remind people that change has to happen. So I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful that the time for me to speak, it came, and that you guys gave me a platform to do that safely. So thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you. And it makes so much sense that you were numb. You're not the only one. I think you know that. There are a lot of Black people, a lot of people in the BIPOC community that just to be able to open their mouth to say anything was painful and scary. And like, what's it going to do? Right? I'm sure it felt hopeless at times too.
Truly.
And that's a piece of what this webinar is we talked about, the reason why there are these uprisings and then people get out there in the streets and they march and then it all fades away. We didn't want to do something that was unsustainable. So every month we have our webinar. It's sustainable. We read a lot of books in the beginning and we slowed down. It's like, uh-oh, we have to get back to our reading, right? We can always do better. And yet, just like you just said, the opportunity came when it needed to come for you, right? And maybe there'll be more opportunities, but what we like to tell our audience is do something that is sustainable towards the dismantling of white supremacy. And people who are attendees of the webinar are going to get resources in their email after having been here, with multiple resources on how to be a learned ally, podcasts, news articles, books, charities, organizations, volunteer opportunities. We've got all these collected from a lot of different people. But the idea is don't try to do it all at once, right? To pick one thing, even if it is just reading a book, the new Jim Crow, talking about like the resurrection of the Jim Crow, and the prison pipeline. And I think what you said earlier, Connie, about people not knowing each other, like Crazy Joe. I mean, I grew up in Berkeley and Oakland. We had a lot of crazies, but
Oakland definitely has a lot of crazies.
they were so sweet if you knew who they were, right? And so when somebody, and if they got upset, there were people that knew how to handle them and be with them. And there were people who did not, right? So what you shared with us tonight was very moving. And there may be an aftershock of it when you hang up tonight. So I just want to kind of reemphasize some self-care, right? Because you really put yourself out there. And if there's something you can do tonight to take care of yourself in a loving way and know that, yeah, maybe you could have done things differently or better as you judged yourself, I invite you to take that judgment off and know that you've been doing a lot of I mean, just having that salon where people can talk freely, that's doing something. It's not like you didn't do anything.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm grateful that you found out about us and that you had trusted us to be here tonight to share what you needed to share. And I know you had something you were going to say, and I kind of dove in, so I want verbosity.
I just kind of just wanted to say I so appreciate your vulnerability and your authenticity tonight and how you were feeling and what you wanted to share. And I heard you before coming on how nervous you are, and you were just so powerful. Um, and it has amazed me in all these webinars. Every panelist that we have spoken to has talked about that need to connect, that we can't stop what's happening until we see each other as we are. And that means seeing our differences and our similarities and connecting and making that connection and being willing to make that connection. And so for you to hear it again just so touched me, because it's been, it really has been really in every webinar we've had thus far, that same thing. And I want to circle back to the importance of name. When you're talking about before, with slavery, they weren't giving names, right? It was numbers, or names were lost. because of systemic racism. And that's been throughout history with oppression of people, the Holocaust, slavery, everything. And just a reminder of how important our names are, and that it's to cherish our own name and those of others, and to ask and make that peace. And I want to circle back to that because we started with that. And I think it was such a powerful beginning of claiming your name for yourself, and how you did that, Connie. And again, I just really appreciate you tonight and hearing your voice and all the wisdom and thoughts that you had in your experiences. So thank you.
Thank you.
And anybody who's watching or listening, please pour some love in the chat, Connie. It would be great for you to just give one or two words or sentences of what you took away from tonight, and some love you can offer Connie and her husband and her beautiful 5-year-old. And I'm going to put some things in the chat. One, if you are a member of the BIPOC community and you would like a space to share your experiences or your hopes, you can sign up to do that. They're hosted the third Sunday of every month at 6:30 Eastern. We also, those of you who will be getting the emails will receive the materials that we've collected for resources. We also, our panelists have 3 choices. Either we compensate them for their time. It's a small stipend because we pay out of pocket of $75, or we offer to pay $75 toward a charity of their choice, or we give them the opportunity to promote their business. And we really we're a little over time, but we're going to stay on because I really want, Connie, for you to be able to share about your salon and any other piece of your business, since that is what you had selected as. And I'm excited for people to know more about Vanity Boutique. And so just before you do that, I also will put in the chat the registration link for future webinars. You can send to this link. It works for all of the webinars. For those of you attending and those of you on Facebook, we'll put in there as well for you to share with friends. And then the last thing is, if you do want to make a donation, we're not a nonprofit, but it can go towards the cost of the webinar Zoom platform, as well as supporting the charities and businesses as needed. And then I'm putting the Instagram of my friend Sonia Renee Taylor, where she was really, she's really pissed, and rightfully so, about the accusations that a Black woman's abundance must have something negative behind it, some kind of wrongdoing to have made the money that they made. So all of this is in the chat, and I want to give you time, Connie, to tell us all about your business and how people can support your business, how they can find you, and we'll also add that to everything everywhere later with links, etc. So.
Oh, perfect. We at Vanity are an intimately arranged, very small boutique salon. We focus on multicultural hair care. We're the only one in Northeastern PA that are like us, that take pride in taking care of Black women and putting Black women at the forefront of self-care. Our salon just recently, unofficially, so you guys are getting the scoop before our actual clients, we unofficially, but very soon officially, will launch our products line. It's available in person. So when you come into the salon or when you go onto the website, it's available for purchase, but it's a line that I've been working on for 2 years.
Wow.
Very intensive ingredient content for people with textured hair, and for frizzy hair, and just all the things that, we face, and all the grooming that we need to be presentable. And we have a website where you can find out all of the information about myself, my partner, our business, our products, etc. It's A Boutique Salon, all one word, aboutiquesalon.com. That'll just bring you to our very short bios. You'll have access to our Instagram. You can sign up for our newsletters. You can purchase our product, and you can come in and support us. So I really wanted to just put that out there, to let you all know, if you do come visit us, you'll be just a part of our community, and where it's a safe space to speak your mind. It's a safe space to talk about, things about your hair that you might not be able to share with others. It's a place where self-care is at the forefront for everyone. We encourage everyone to come, but particularly, we are proud, so proud to be able to service and take care of Black women because we feel like a lot of people have forgotten about us. So, so yeah, that's everything that I can tell you about Vanity. Head over to our website, read about us, learn about us, and sign up for our newsletters.
And if people have friends or family who are Black women in the northeastern Pennsylvania, can they order birth certificates? Can they order gift certificates?
They can. They can.
Okay. So they can buy gifts for their friends. Okay.
Yes, they can. We are so intimately arranged that we ask that you shoot us an email or give us a call personally because all of those links are not set up online. We don't want, we're we're overworked, to be quite honest. We're intimately arranged, so we're very small, and the need for what we do is it's massive. But I think it's just been undermined because people don't pay enough attention to the needs of Black women. So no one else has really invested the time or the skill into focusing on self-care for us. So we're overwhelmed because so many people need the services we provide. So we ask that sometimes when you go online to place orders for gift cards and things like that, we don't want to get overwhelmed, get to you late. We want to have one-on-one personal conversation with everyone. So that way you get a response, you know, we're checked in with you. We can make sure all of your needs are met. So we ask that for personalized things like that, you just shoot us an email, but all of our products and our brushes are available online to be purchased right away.
That is so cool.
Beautiful.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
really great.
you.
So really
Thank
what
you.
needs to happen is we need to get somebody who's willing to invest in opening up a second salon. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, that's ultimately the goal. I'm just, coming out of pandemic mode where we did absolutely nothing this time last year to
Yeah.
people being overwhelmed because Black hair care and Black self-care is not something that you can just not do. So
Right.
people
Exactly.
were not coming into the salon and they were trying their best to do it at home, but I'm fixing a lot of uh-ohs from the pandemic this time last year. So I'm overwhelmed. So
I
at this
bet.
particular moment, I'm not quite ready to open up a second location, but hopefully within the next few years, that'll be definitely at the top of the to-do list.
How wonderful. Well, there are a couple of comments. We'll close with these. Caitlin said, "Thank you for being so authentic, Connie. I really appreciated hearing your story." And someone on Facebook said, "Women should always support each other. I am so hopeful that we can bridge the gap. Connie Salon is my safe place." Oh, so that's somebody that knows you already.
Amazing.
Let's see if we can say who that was.
Tracy.
Tracy McMillan.
Oh, I love Miss Tracy. Thank you so much, Miss Tracy.
She's been watching on the Facebook page and really engaging. So, Connie, is there anything else that you would like to share before we end this evening, or ask for, or
I know that I've said it more than once, but I just want to thank you for allowing me for giving me a safe space to be vulnerable. I never get a chance to talk about things like this. I never get a chance to be candid. I was really nervous about what candid meant. And I reached out to you guys, to you both, to just make sure that I was in line with your platform. And I just love how you told me there's no direction. Just say what you think you need to say. And I've always been guided for things like this. So truly having the floor to say what needs to be said and what I was honestly afraid to say for so long, I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful. So thank you.
thank you. Yeah. All right, stay with us for just a minute, Connie. We're going to say goodbye to everybody else.
Bye, everyone. Thank you all
Bye,
so much for
everyone.
watching.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. We so appreciate it.
And we'll stop the live stream on Facebook.